How he prophesied, in Ezekiel, he said, like, I will make you walk in my statutes and my ordinances again, so that we will be, not for our sake, he says, for his own name's sake, so that we would be blessed, so obviously blessed, that it's like, you can't miss it.
Right.
And then he would receive the glory. Like if I have children, that are, not taken care of, and I go somewhere out in the world, and, people are pointing fingers. They say, like, look at these children, they're, like, messed up. They're not taken care of. They're, like, they're starving. They're, like, what kind of father is this, But if it's the opposite, if it's well, nourished children, well-behaved children, it's noticeable. And the father will get the glory. So that's the picture that he shared with me. Like if he, and he knows how to take good care of us. Even like the father on the earth, if the child asks for an egg, he will not give him a snake. So how father, how would father not provide? And that's like something that Jose shared with us yesterday, when the Greeks went and asked the disciple Philip and Andrew, who said Philip, they asked first, like, we want to see Yeshua. So they came all the way from Greece, those, cut off people, made it here for Pesach, and said, we want to see Yeshua. And Yeshua said, if it doesn't fall to the
grain right there.
If it doesn't fall to the ground, and die, it's not going to bring much. It doesn't going to bring any fruit. But if it falls down to the and it dies, it will bear much fruit. So he says, if we want to save our lives, it's not going to do us any good. We're going to lose it. But if we're ready to lose it,
we're going to gain it.
We're going to preserve it. And that's like what he said concerning that Pesach feast. He said, like, if anybody wants to, follow me, he needs to be where I am, and then the Father will honor him. So if you're coming to the city, even when it's surrounded by armies, and it really looks like a suicide mission, who wants to go to Jerusalem now? Next year it might be what Yeshua talked about, that the city's going to be surrounded by armies, and it really, anybody that comes here, it looks like you're laying down your life. Like Paul said, I feel compelled by the Spirit to go up, even if I have to die. But I need to be where my Messiah is. I need to be where he was. I need to be walking in his footsteps. And all I'm after is that honor of the Father. For well done, my faithful servant.
Walk as he walked.
And be at the place and the time where he wants us to be. Again, to be blessed, so that the world would see, is like in the midst of a storm, he's able to take care of his children. And that reminds me again of Moshe at the sea. That's the next thing. Like they were pushed out, like a baby's being pushed out by the birth pangs. But then right after that, they were like, it's like the dragon that wanted to eat the child in Revelation 12. The dragon's right after, and that's like the army of Pharaoh is right after them to devour them. And then Abba tells Moshe, why are you crying? Why are you crying to me? Like they're hard pressed between, a rock and a hard place, so to speak. It's like between the water and the army. And then the angel steps behind them and protects them from
wall of protection. He's our refuge.
Amen.
Psalm 91.
And people are taking this special Pesach now, where everybody has to, go hide yourself in the chamber until the wrath is over. The next thing that's going to happen is like this push. His people will be pushed out of the nations. And then the next thing that's going to happen is the armies are going to come behind us. And then also talking about the red light and not jaywalking and not being in a place where we ought not to be, because then it's going to be just like it's going to overwhelm us, or the enemy is going to be
we open up a door to ourselves
of attack. Right. And so he said, like, not the shortcut. not even he didn't take his people out through the shortcut. He says like, I'm gonna take you on the detour because I want you to make it.
Right.
So he didn't take them on the direct way up to Canaan, but the way around. So we need to be prepared for that too, for being kicked out, pushed out, being chastised, and being led on a detour. And then still protected. And then we need to take care we don't start murmuring. Oh, you remember the garlic and you remember the cucumbers and anyways, like
no
why
meat.
wasn't there any other was there no graves in Egypt? And we know why he took us out of Egypt and into the desert. Because he hates us so much. Father, forgive us. Father, forgive us for even forgive our forefathers and forgive us for not getting it. Is his love, and not because he hated us. That he's preparing us, and even this valley of tears or this valley of shadow of death right now that we're walking through, even in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil.
Amen.
Hallelujah. And then the next thing is going to be, he's going to prepare a table in front of our enemies. Even that. Again. Thank you, Father. Wow. So yes, preparation time. And I saw a video of last year's Pesach.
Yeah.
Somebody taped it, and they went to all the holy places, like the religious places, and all the things that used to go on last year. They're cut off this year. You can't go to any of those religious places now. And it's like all those things that we've learned, the lies of our forefathers. He says like it's enough. Don't want that anymore.
What I see the last month is it's been just a perpetual Sabbath. And isn't it interesting that all the parallels between Sabbath and also Passover, Pesach,
and Yom Kippur is very
Yom
much
Kippur.
like James said it. James Block said it the other day. This is more like Yom Kippur, but there's so much. It's so close together. Yom Kippur and Pesach, they're like two.
And maybe it's we're preparing for Yom Kippur now. He's preparing us now, giving us preparation time between now and then.
Yesterday, I watched a video that was looking again at Kaduri's. Have you heard of Rabbi Kaduri?
I have.
He was this well-known rabbi that passed away a few years ago.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Before he did,
Who knew Yeshua?
He said, like, Yeshua really is the Mashiach.
Right.
And many people overlook that still. And he had this prophecy before he passed away that said that there would be a time in Israel soon that Israel wouldn't have a government. And after that, the Rosh Hashanah, which is Yom Teruah, would be starting a period of war, even in the heavens. And it's a reflection, I think. If there's a war in the heavens, it's a war on earth. So it's Ezekiel 38 is still something that it has been called for even in the city. There, like even a few years ago, there was like banners in the Orthodox communities, like where they called for Gog and Magog now. They're like waiting for this because this is a sign of the end of the times of the approach of Mashiach. And even this year, they waited for Mashiach to appear. They were ready to give this Pesach, to do the Pesach Korban, the Pesach sacrifice. He said we can do that now. We need to do that now. And if it started, we just read that yesterday, then what goes along with this is like the daily sacrifice. If you do it if you do your Pesach sacrifice, then throughout the whole week is a requirement to do the daily sacrifice too. Like actually, additionally to the daily, to the morning and the evening, you have to give a daily offering. So the altar would be going on and on and on until the abomination of desolation. But up to now, it hasn't started yet. But they say, like it was in the past when they came back from Babylon, we don't need the temple first. It suffices. It's enough if we have an altar. And then once the altar is set up and it's in use, a daily sacrifice, then what Daniel talked about can happen, that it will be stopped through the abomination of desolation, which would be then the first day of 1,290 days to count. Right now we're in day 4, counting the Omer.
Counting the Omer, day 4.
And it's talking about 50 days. It's talking about Jubilee, the release of the captives. Again, it's like the same theme. And over there we can see it actually from here, as where supposedly the first congregation met, where that outpouring of the Holy Spirit happened. It's right over there. It's like
just beyond the church.
It's you can see it from here. If you it's right there. It's right next to, on the field where you were yesterday, where you talked about you went over to Mount Zion.
Yeah, which is right in front of the church.
It's right there.
Okay, yeah.
40 days he still represented himself in many ways, Yeshua, and they didn't recognize him. Like even now, many times we have this hard time to recognize his hand, his working within our lives and how he's leading us, and they had a hard time recognizing him. And then after these 40 days, he ascended right from over there, from the
Mount of Olives. Yep.
Well, and here we are, 2020, and he wants us to get prepared. We want to actually do a studies within the next half a year or so, and look at, because Yeshua said, like, there's when they asked him, how are we gonna, what's gonna be the sign of your return and all this, and there was one specific hint that he gave, and he said, like, the abomination of desolation that's talked about in Daniel. Let the reader understand. And so that's what we want to do. We want to go exactly. And for the longest time I thought, let the reader of Matthew understand, or Luke, but it wasn't even written at this time. The Gospels weren't written. What was written was Daniel.
Yep.
Yeah, what Yeshua was talking about was the reader of Daniel. Let the reader of the Daniel understand. And now in Daniel we have these 3 passages that talk about the abomination of desolation. We have Daniel 9:27, we have Daniel 11:31, and Daniel 12:10. 3 places that talks about the abomination of desolation. So what we want to do is we want to look at every word in those verses and take it apart and look at what's the Hebrew word, what's the context, what's the meaning of this word. Even Daniel 9:27, it talks about he will make strong a covenant for the many. It starts off with he. So who is he?
We need to pray for wisdom and understanding. Yes. Father's wisdom and understanding, not worldly wisdom and understanding.
Come Reuben, Yehuda, and Levi. Come Joseph, Benjamin, and Dan. Come Shimon, Issachar, and Zebulun. Come Gad, Asher, and Naphtali. Come unto the mountain. Come unto the mountain. Come with sacrifices of righteousness.